For the second time in 2 days, the Texas Longhorns have connected on a player on the defensive front seven, this time getting a commitment from JaBarrius Garror, defensive end edge prospect out of Viger High School in Pritchard, Alabama, down in the Mobile area. 40-plus sacks over the last 2 years. Says he sort of patterns his game a little after Colin Simmons, who had similar stats. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by CJ Vogel and Jordan Scruggs of On Texas Football. CJ, JaBarrius Garror is a Texas Longhorn, announcing moments ago over Miami, as well as Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia, where he visited officially. Your thoughts on Garror and this pledge for the Longhorns?
Well, you see it on the graphic here. Production galore. I don't know many guys that are going into their senior year, Bobby, that have had over 90 career tackles for loss or over 45 sacks. This guy finds ways to impact games. He lives in the backfield. He's quick. He's agile. He's got fantastic BGO. Really strong pickup off the edge for the Longhorns. Lyle Clark, Will Muschamp, that whole defensive side of the ball did a fantastic job getting him on campus in the spring, continuing to visit him at Viger High School in Pritchard, Alabama as well, and then securing the commitment on the official visit. This is a fantastic get. I'm not going to say there's similarities, or I'm not going to, I guess, draw the comparison to Colin Simmons, but you see some similarities with the game, the quickness, and the ability to just make life very difficult for opposing offenses in the backfield.
Yeah, Jordan, we watch this film right now. Look, 40-plus sacks in 2 seasons, 200-plus tackles, 80 tackles for loss. Your thoughts on this pickup for the Longhorns and how it all came down to Texas over Georgia, Alabama, and others?
Yeah, I'll talk about the recruitment first. This was a Texas-Miami battle for a while. Hurricanes, they ended up getting a commitment from another top-ranked pass rusher. I think that kind of took them out of the race for Garror, considering they are kind of expected to eventually flip #1 overall prospect DJ Jacobs. But after that, it became a Texas-Auburn battle. Auburn, I think, was very much more of a threat than people thought. They held a commitment from Garror's teammate at Viger, Isaac McNeil, who's kind of also a linebacker edge tweener. So that was a big win over Auburn. I mean, they have a close friend of his, a high school teammate, a kid he grew up with. You also beat out Georgia. They weren't very much of a threat. And then Florida State didn't end up getting him on the OV because Texas was able to shut it down. So pretty seamless recruitment for Texas. I think it went exactly the way they wanted it to. As far as the player, I love the game. Obviously, production's going to jump off immediately like we've been talking about, but thinking about the future of the Texas edge room, what the personnel looks like, you will never be able to replace Colin Simmons with another player of that level. It's just very unlikely to happen. But from the 2-point edge rusher, winning with speed type of edge rusher perspective, you don't really have that on your roster. And the one guy you kind of have that with is Kosi Okpala, who's now playing linebacker. I think out of everyone on the roster, Kosi Okpala has the best ability to bend besides Colin Simmons. I think that'll change a bit once Garror gets on campus, Colin leaves. Then you have both Kosi and Garror, and they're both going to be kind of playing the same position, 2-point edge rushers, off-ball overhang backers. So a lot to like, and you also went into the heart of SEC country to do it. You got this kid out of Mobile. 5-10 years ago, guess who this kid would be playing for? Nick Saban. So I think it's a huge win for Texas, and just another one that keeps rolling for Texas.
Couple of things to note here that I think are interesting. One, you mentioned Nick Saban. He was initially committed to Alabama for more than a year, according to Jerry. And then Jerry went by there, that high school. And one of the things he said that he just absolutely loved is the tenaciousness and never say die attitude of the guy, not only in practice, but also you see it on film where he has a motor that just won't stop. That seems to be something that elite pass rushers, guys, that is the one thing that they have, and something that we see not only in Colin Simmons, but other guys that have been successful rushing the passer. Guy like Joe Osai didn't have a motor that stopped for Texas either. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and we talked a little bit about this the other day, his nickname. This is going to go down as one of the funnier nicknames because it's not something that you would never necessarily say about a guy that sacks the quarterback 40 times. His nickname is Chicken. So we'll have to see what that's all about and learn a little bit more about JaBarrius Garror here. CJ, how does this sit on Texas recruiting class now at 14 commitments on the season 2027? They also have this huge recruiting weekend coming up this weekend. They had a big weekend last weekend. What's the situation right now as it sits with Texas overall in recruiting?
Well, you like where they're sitting, right? Especially coming after that first official visit weekend. 2 commitments, 2 days, 2 guys from out of state that are both very high national recruits. So for folks wondering when Texas would really start getting going in their 2027 class, we're in the midst of it right now. Texas is off and running. I don't think they're done. I also think that following this weekend, we'll see, right? Texas is making it known that this official visit time for them is when they want to strike. We've seen that time and time again over the last several cycles with Steve Sarkisian. But specifically at the edge room, you have to like what Texas has right now. There's variety, there's versatility, there's, again, havoc creation. You look at what Cam Hall can do coming out of Mansfield Summit, already been committed to the Longhorns. That's a kid that I look at each time, and I don't know about you, Jordan, but each time I see him, I think he gets bigger and bigger. Of course, he committed all the way back in January, and then Derwin Fields out of Brookhaven, Mississippi, committed back in April. You have versatility there. You have guys that can continue to grow into their molds. And yeah, Jordan, you mentioned you're not going to replace Colin Simmons, but with the way that Texas has been recruiting the edge position over the last several years, especially when you go back and you look at a Richie Wesley, you add what could be a Jamarian Carlton. We'll see where his body ends up growing into. There's plenty of options to find very talented, suitable edges in what is a conference where you absolutely have to have top talent if you're going to compete for SEC championships or national championships, given the slate and difficulty of competition here.
Hey, Jordan, talking about what CJ's going there, what about this class as a whole, kind of building on that now at 14 verbal commitments? What do you think of the class of 2027, and where does Texas still need a strike?
Well, I think they have a really good, how do I put this into words? They have certain needs at positions. They will get some commitments at those positions this summer, but they will go into the senior season for the class of 2027 needing to make a senior eval, needing to make a flip. They're in a great spot for Junior Tupou at safety, but they need more than just one safety this cycle. Where will that second one come from if they land Tupou? Is it going to be a flip? Is it a senior eval? I don't know. They've hit on 2 senior evals in the past. Jelani McDonald, Xavier Filsamy, both picked up their offer as seniors committed to other programs. So could they go back to that? Well, potentially. I think linebacker is also, going to be in the running for a senior eval take at that position. But as a whole, rough draft thoughts, I should say, whatever you want to call it, big picture thoughts as the summer kind of comes to a midway point, I think they're in a really good spot. They have more commitments than they ever have at this point. And once you kind of get more guys in the boat, it gives you more energy, more time, more resources to spend on those top targets that are going to take longer, like in Ismail Kamara, or like, other players that are going to take it all the way into the season that have leverage to, because realistically, that's probably the situation we're looking at with Easton Royal. So big picture, I think they're in a really good spot. I think they've continued to adapt year over year, and I think it's paid off for them.
Yeah, Jerry and Hank are over at the airport right now, just to kind of talk about a little bit about what's going on outside of just this Garror commitment. And Texas has several guys that are expected on campus. I have a question for y'all real quick. Who are some of the guys that you're really looking towards this weekend, Jordan and CJ? Give us a couple of guys that y'all really want to talk about here out of this group. CJ, I'll start with you.
I think you have to look at the defensive line group. The 2 kids coming in from Mississippi, BenJarvius Shoemaker from Ackerman, Mississippi, and Mitchell Turner from Louisville, Mississippi. I think that's where I start because, again, Texas has done a fantastic job grabbing the edges. I think they're in a strong spot for some linebackers as well in this class, but that big-time defensive lineman is where Texas really has to find success in the recruiting trail. And obviously, yesterday they knocked it out of the park with Kasai Curry. But how do you continue to stack? How do you continue to make sure that pipeline stays ready to roll year after year, especially given a year ago it was just James Johnson, right? It was just a potential Jamarian Carlton, again, depending on where his body ends up. So stacking the defensive line for me is really important. The edge room looks fantastic. Now making sure that Kenny Baker's guys continue to have that depth and, again, that versatility, I think, is key for this weekend. And you have two really talented kids coming in from the state of Mississippi.
Hey, what about you, Jordan? You have one or two that you're looking at this weekend?
Yeah, I'm like CJ, I'm really focused on the D line, but do want to bring up Brian Swanson. This is a kid Texas has led for, been the leader for, going back to when they offered him after a camp as he went into his sophomore year. He has a state championship pedigree, plays big boy football down there in South Dallas, and has starting experience at guard at both tackle spots, actually at both guard spots as well. And I mean, he can plug and play. He's kind of a guy you can project to make an early impact if he had to make one. He trains with Zach Collins. He also works with several other current and former Longhorns like Trevor Gooseby. DJ Campbell was one of them, the Coleman brothers, Andre Kojo. He also had Nate Kibble. So really good relationship there from his camp. And with Texas, Chris Gilbert has been a huge impact in this one. Not only is Chris Gilbert a South Oak Cliff alum, he also was the head coach of the Golden Bears as well. So few people's voice holds more weight than Chris Gilbert's does down there. He's done a great job with Swanson. So is Kyle Flood. So is Steve Sarkisian. And they've been the team to beat. They're remaining the team to beat. And he's, CJ brought up the D-line group, bunch of headliners there. You look at the O-line group, Brian Swanson is the guy. He's been the guy too. So after him, you also have Caleb Seiler. We expect that one to be Northwestern of Texas. It's ultimately going to come down to how much he feels prioritized this weekend, both as a recruit but also financially. And then he will eventually make a decision Monday or Tuesday. It should come right after the trip. And again, it will be Northwestern of Texas. It'll be up to how much Texas wants to push this weekend. So the O-line group and the D-line group is where our eyes are.
Yeah, I like both y'all's topics because Swanson's the one guy I would say Texas can't lose this weekend.
Nope.
That like, look, they want Mitchell Turner. They want these guys, but they've held the lead for Swanson for a while, ostensibly. You don't want them to lose him ever because he's a tackle prospect and they offensive tackle prospect, and they got it. I'll tell you the two that are on commit watch, not necessarily this weekend, but over the next several days, potentially. Kyron Brown out of Paladuro. Texas coaches saw him in person last week. He worked out at a camp less than 2 weeks ago, I guess, and got an offer from Texas. And now he's visiting the Longhorns. And all of a sudden, the Longhorns are the favorite. And then Izzy Hammonds. This is a guy, the linebacker out of Choctaw, Oklahoma, that Will Muschamp was just going to go see. Well, Will Muschamp ended up going and seeing and staying for 3 or 4 hours. So he didn't just kind of like him. He said, I need to rearrange my day a little bit around seeing Israel Hammonds. So I think that as Jordan mentioned, he talked about needs at linebacker. Izzy Hammonds might fit that bill. All right, our guys are over at the airport right now. Players are just now coming in for this official visit weekend. But I want to sum up here a little bit, if y'all don't mind, this commitment of JaBarrius Garror. We have some people that have asked some questions. Jordan, this one's for you. Considering JaBarrius Garror's high school production, he was a sophomore All-American and a junior All-American. Why is he not a 5-star recruit? He's actually outside the top 100 by some folks. Not everyone has him outside the top 100. But in your opinion, Jordan, why do you think this is the case?
Yeah, so I will say ESPN, they have a ranking in the 40s that's about as close to 5-star territory as you'll get. But for him, I can tell you why he and Colin Simmons are very similar and why Colin Simmons is a 5-star and JaBarrius Garror is not ranked as one. 5 stars and rankings, it's all draft projection. So that's verified testing, obviously film, but verified athleticism is the most important thing there. And measurements, of course, especially for point of attack players, you got to have a long wingspan, long arms. Colin Simmons is only about 6'2.5", 6'3", but he has a wingspan in the +6, +7 range. He also tested like an alien in high school at multiple camps. So he had, I believe, 26 sacks as a junior playing for Duncanville. It's about what JaBarrius Garror put up down in Mobile, but Colin Simmons had the things that you could project him to the first round of the NFL draft, despite being undersized as an edge rusher. JaBarrius Garror, about the same size, similar profile. He's not quite as long, though. And the testing data isn't quite as elite as well. So they are very similar. By no means do I want to call him a poor man's Colin Simmons, but like Colin Simmons is one of one. Have y'all ever covered a player like him at Texas? No. So I'm not trying to tear down Garror. I just want to explain the differences between them because he's still a terrific prospect who can still be projected to day 2, day 3 of the NFL draft very easily. So that's kind of why the rankings are the way they are.
Yeah, I think he could even be one if he gets up to the quarterback like he is now. That it all depends on whether or not you can get to the quarterback. At the college level, once you do that, all bets are off. CJ, this one I'm going to let you take. Do you think 2027, the class, will be higher rated than the 2026 one? Will you end up liking the 27 class or the 26 class more? Got to say this, Ryan Nelson, it was a pleasure meeting your daughter the other day over on West near the Texas Union. What do you think here, though, CJ? 27 or 26 class, do you have a preference? And maybe I'll roll that over to you as well, Jordan, afterwards.
Yeah, I think right now, and again, Texas has a lot of room and ways to go in this 27 class. I think I'm going to lean a little bit towards that 2026 class just for the sense that the guys that you were able to sign and bring in, Derek Cooper, John Turntine, Dia Bell, Chris Stewart, Jermaine Bishop, all these guys, Tyler Atkinson, the ways in which you won a number of these commitments, it was kind of a shot towards other schools in the country. And so the top talent there, I think, is very impressive. I also think that you're starting to see schools pivot, and I think Texas has pivoted as well in how they construct these classes. I don't think you hunt anymore for the number 1 overall class in the country. That's a lot of resources and financial obligations that are tied up to young kids that maybe don't see the field or contribute for your team the next year. So look, I think Texas, especially towards the back end a year ago, they really started to pivot to find some guys that they really liked, but on the cheaper side. So they let some more expensive, probably higher ranked options walk to other schools, but they found guys that they liked for a monetary price that they liked as well. So I think this year, Texas has, Jordan, you mentioned Texas is further ahead in constructing their class this year than they ever have been before. I think in a way it's finding guys that have an elite trait or elite skill, but maybe have a ways to go developmentally to get to being a finished product, but they don't break the bank. And that allows them financial flexibility for the big fish down the road. So it'll be really interesting to see where they finish. But right now I lean a little bit towards what we saw a year ago.
Interesting. You mentioned like a Kyron Brown this year and compare him to a Rocky Cummings last year that was committed to Cal that they got that maybe wasn't like this super high NIL situation, but they really liked him. And Cummings making some waves already in Austin. And look, but that's not the case with JaBarrius Garror.
Nope.
Highly touted, highly recruited young man. Guys, last one. I want to do this before we get going. Rand Rodriguez, are they going to try and put some weight on him, or is he planning to play at 215, 225? I've got to be blunt. He will not play a ton at 215 at the University of Texas. You got to realize he's still just a high school junior. He hasn't even gone into high school senior year yet. He will easily get up into that 235, 240 range before he's done at the University of Texas. I think everybody on this panel here would agree, correct, Jordan and CJ?
Yeah. What's Colin Simmons' current weight listing? He's still at he's been at 240 since his
245.
Got it. And he's been at 245, 240 for about 2 years now, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with Garror, I think freshman year listing come fall camp, probably north of a 225. I think 230 is a pretty good bet. With him, I mean, how much weight he can handle ultimately comes down to how much frame space he has, and also what is the best trait for him as a pass rusher. Ball get off, bend, getting around the edge with speed. That can kind of go down a bit if you put too much weight on. Texas had to go through that with Colin Simmons, putting it on the correct way with Torrey Becton. They've done it with plenty of other players. There's no reason JaBarrius shouldn't be able to do it as well.
I would agree with you there. The other thing that I think may end up being his telltale sign is not just that bend, but I go back to what I really like about him as a player. It's his motor and production. And you combine that as a pass rusher that never stay blocked. It's amazing. Those guys end up playing a lot of football, down the road. All right, before we let folks go, JaBarrius Garror, again, commits to the University of Texas. Second commitment in as many days for the Longhorns, blue chip guy on the defensive front. Texas making hay right now on that side of the ball. They've got a number of players coming in for official visits this weekend. Before we let folks go, Jordan and CJ, y'all have any final thoughts either on Garror or the weekend ahead? Jordan, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'll say for Garror, I'm surprised I didn't tell this story earlier, but the last 3 springs, I have gone all the way out to Carrollton, Georgia for Under Armour Atlanta. It's called Under Armour Atlanta, even though it's an hour west of Atlanta. But JaBarrius Garror was there last year as a sophomore. And at this specific camp, the Under Armour camps are always great, but this specific one is always loaded. Like, you legitimately have aliens walking around, guys who look like trees. Like, all the DNs are over 6'4", 6'5". They're like the super long wingspans, everything. They look the part. And all these guys are going through the drills, and I don't know half these kids. We have a roster with their numbers, but they're all from the Southeast. I know mostly Texas kids. And you start just giving guys the eyeball test, and you're like, oh, he looks like the run of the litter, or kind of like the chicken. Well, that was JaBarrius Garror. Physically was like least impressive out of all these guys. And then they get onto 1-on-1s, 5-on-5s, and all these different drills, and he's kicking everyone's ass. And like, it is destroying offensive tackles that were 4 or 5-star guys, and in guards too. He played interior, and he left that camp as, I believe, either the MVP, KJ Green, who is funny because Texas ended up choosing JaBarrius Garror over KJ Green effectively, was also at that camp, and they were co-MVPs. And I believe both got invited to Future 50 Under Armour All-American game. But I had no idea who he was. Found out his name after they said it, and he won MVP. But I remember being super impressed by it. And then a few months later, he committed to Alabama early, and I was like, oh, that was that kid. So crazy how time flies. But he really impressed me that day, continuing to impress me now.
CJ, final thoughts?
Yeah, it's just the way in which Texas is building the front seven. You've seen for years the blueprint of Georgia and the Alabamas. I mean, even Ohio State's gone down to Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana to find these defensive linemen. Texas has had a plenty of success out in California, but the more of a footprint that they're able to establish in Alabama, in Mississippi, in Atlanta, I think is fantastic. Again, 2 Mississippi defensive linemen coming in this weekend. They typically have a high hit rate. Texas, once again, aiming for guys in very, fruitful states, cities, areas of the region that produce very talented defensive linemen.
Yeah, it's the SEC way. SEC way. All right, Jordan, thank you so much. CJ, thank you so much. Again, we're going to have more updates on here as well as on TexasFootball.com. We have a special right now. Don't miss out on all this recruiting information. $3 for 3 months. That's not $3 a month. That's actually $3 whole for all 3 months total. That is right now at OnTexasFootball.com. New subscribers only. Please give us a shout. We're going to be updating all of the official visits coming in this weekend. CJ, you will be joining, I think, the guys out at the airport later, but Hank and Jerry are already out there getting the guys as they come in on their official visits. All right, for CJ Vogel, for Jordan Scruggs, as well as our producer, Matt Hutchison behind the screen. I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good one. Congratulations to JaBarrius Garror, the 14th commitment of the 2027 recruiting class for the University of Texas. JaBarrius, hook 'em horns, buddy.